And so often we approach our experience simply we approach our experience from our relationship with our mind or with our egoic nature. And if we look at our mind and our egoic nature, it's very loud, it's very busy. It paints the picture of our reality. And so whether we're a mother, a father, a carpenter, this or that, a teacher, we get lost in that reality. We think it's the extent of what we are. But what I wanted to speak about tonight was the whole world of spiritual experience. And so all day long I get all these questions about spiritual experience. I know there's a great deal of confusion around spiritual experience. Whether it's simply anxiety or depression moving through us, or our current drama, or whether it's a movement of prana, movement of chi, movement of grace, movement of kundalini energy. And there's a whole wide variety of spiritual experience. Now most people, they live their whole life just in their role. As a mother, father, carpenter, teacher, whatever it is that people are, they live their life in that role. And they think that that's the extent of what they are. And then at some point, they're struck by a spiritual experience and it stops them. And they get quite confused because they say, what is this? What's happening within me? And so some people, a lot of people come and they're having an opening in one of their chakra centers, whether it's their heart, their belly, the space of their mind. And while it's opening, oftentimes it can be quite disorienting. So when the heart opens, oftentimes it has to shed off or let go of all kinds of experiences of panic, of fear, anxiety. We hold all of our wounds on top of the heart. And so when the heart opens, there can be this explosion of anxiety that moves through us and empties out of us. When the belly opens, it can feel as if the ground falls out from under our feet. It's quite disorienting for most people. And so the number one teaching that I tell people is when we're having whatever kind of experience it is, whether it's a feeling of heat rushing through us, whether we're having racing thoughts or no thoughts, whether it feels as if the ground is falling out from under us. I've even, had seizures from so much kundalini energy moving through my body. I've had my eyes roll to the back of my head, my neck gets arched. And I work with a lot of people who go through all these experiences, whether it's a panic attack or racing thoughts and confusion. The number one teaching, the first teaching, is for us to rest in a Zen-like sanity. And the way we step into this Zen-like sanity is first and foremost knowing the goodness and divinity of our own heart. To rest there in our heart. To allow this to pass by. And sometimes when it's passing by, it'll feel as if we are the silent witness and we can just watch it pass by, where we remain untouched. But other times, it will feel like we are literally in the mud, in the muck and the mire, that we are being drowned and suffocated by mud, by heaviness, by weight, by disease, or some bizarre neurological disorder or this or that. And the question is can we continue to rest in our heart, knowing that what we are is good, that what we are is love itself, that what we are is clarity itself. If we weren't so damn clear, we wouldn't be able to see the insanity that's arising. We wouldn't be able to see the depression, anxiety, panic, whatever it is. We become unclear when we step into the panic and get confused by it and think that that's what we are, instead of knowing that those things are just a passing experience, that they are just a passing experience arising within the space of what we are. And so in any moment, whatever spiritual experience we're having, whether it's a blissful experience, a terrifying experience, a chakra opening or a chakra closing, or even the rare experience of true Kundalini awakening, can we rest in this silent truth? Can we rest in our silent, ever-present divinity and allow these things to pass through us, to empty out of us, and perhaps even teach us, open new doors within us? But first and foremost, can we see that what we are is not the contents of our experience, but the space in which the contents arise? At any moment in our day, if we simply close our eyes and just feel, what we will notice is that we are the space. That the space there is ever present, unchanged, unharmed. The contents of the space may be difficult, may be alarming, may be disturbing, may be beautiful. There may be bright lights, hellish lights. There may be feelings of pressure or even insanity. But can we realize first and foremost that we are the space, not the contents? If you notice, it's the one thing, the only consistent thing about your experience. It's the only consistent thing about your experience is spaciousness. It's always present. A quiet, open-hearted spaciousness. Within that spaciousness, huge energies can flood your form. And most people are terrified of these energies. It's a funny thing. To me as a child, I was never terrified of these energies. I always knew it was a movement of divinity. And so if we have faith, these energies can move through us. They can open into something greater. And we remain clear. If we lose our faith, we get lost in the mix of our mind. We get lost in the hell of it. So people always ask, what do I do? First and foremost, realize the quiet, ever-present space. That's what you are. That's what we always are. We are not the depression. We are the space which witnesses the depression. We are not the anxiety. We are the space which allows the anxiety. We're not the hell, we're not the opening, we're not the rush of energy. We're not even the insight. But we're this quiet, ever-present space. And as we let go into this space, we realize that what we are has never been touched by our experience, never been harmed by our experience. And there's this great fortune when we truly realize that and allow this realization to descend into all the unconscious aspects of ourselves. And it radically transforms. It begins to break down all these unconscious aspects of self. As we allow this peace, this space, this ever-present awareness to flood the hell within us, to flood the confusion within us, to flood the insanity within us. But for most people, it's difficult to even place their attention on what they are. They get so confused by all the loud voices, they just give themselves over to the loud voices and identify fully with them. And in the identification is the suffering. In the identification with your divinity is the freedom, is the truth, is the peace, which we always already are. Always already are. And so this work, it takes time. And while it's taking time, and by time I mean it takes the extent of our lifetime, is this ever-present invitation to let go more and more into this intelligence. And allow this intelligence to lead us, to guide us, to have its way with us. So that at some point there's not two of us, a disturbed one and a divine one, but at some point there just becomes one of us. One being, one presence. Not two, but one. 99% of the planet live with two, or more like they have 10 within them. They have a head, a heart, a gut, an emotional mind, a mental mind, a logical mind, an irrational mind, a wounded mind, the inner child, the adult, the critic, the jealous one, the angry one, the violent one, the aggressive one, the addicted one. It's an insanity, an absolute insanity. But it's through realizing our divinity and allowing this divinity to wake up in every aspect of ourself that unity comes forward. That unity is realized. And this integration, well, it takes time. It's like planting a seed. A seed needs spring. It needs summer. It needs fall. And even winter. But so many of us, we just want to go from A to B and skip all the steps. But in this world, God doesn't let us skip steps. God forces us to make every single step, because within each step is a new truth. But the way so many people think about this is they think that when I go from A to Z, that the me that's here now will be the same me when I get to Z. I'll just be smarter and wiser. But when you step from A to B, you actually become a completely different individual. That's the transformation. That's the transfiguration. We don't get to bring our mind with us. We don't get to bring our ego with us. Where there was once sorrow, the sorrow must be let go. It must be released so that we may learn compassion. We may learn tenderness. Where there was harshness, we must learn humility and softness. Where there is anger, we must learn power. True power, loving power, true confidence. But so many people on the path, they think, when I get to the end, it's still going to be the same me. Just a better me. Like when you start college, you're kind of still the same you when you graduate college. With a little bit more knowledge. That's not how the spiritual path works. We are asked to let go of that which is no good, which doesn't work, which is inefficient, which is disturbed, distorted, neurotic. And through that letting go and opening into, we discover that which is divine. The very nature of our mind is radically reshaped, radically reformed. But the logic we started with is not, we don't still have the same logic when we end. We have a different kind of a logic that is born not out of thought, not out of rationale, but out of divine intelligence. The love that we start with is not the same love that we end with. It's a love that is unconditional. It's beyond good and bad, right and wrong. Beyond, I just love my family and love those who are like me, or those in my tribe or in my state or on my football team or whatever silly thing it is. The love that we end with is an unconditional, ever-present love. It's radically different. The very nature of our heart is transformed. The very nature of our strength is transformed. Our strength is literally transformed through acts of surrender. And we don't develop a false humility and an egoic confidence at the end of the spiritual path, but we discover a total non-division between us and God, between us and life. And a confidence and a truth which is so huge that we no longer see good and bad. We no longer see division through the very space and nature of our mind. So this path is a path of radical transformation. It is something quite incredible. Beyond even our imagination, beyond even our ability to imagine what it is. For some people that's terrifying. They'll experience it as a death or many deaths along the way. And the thing they're forgetting is they are dying into God. They are dying into grace. It's not a death, but a rebirth into something so incredible, so glorious, not to be feared. But to have an ultimate sense of gratitude. Thank you so much for stripping away that which is no good within me. And opening me into that which is so good, I can't even imagine it. That it feels as if I'm being burned alive from the inside out, that this light is so brilliant within me. That's something to smile about, not to fear. So I always look at an individual and ask them, do you know how beautiful you are? How bright you are? How indestructible you are? Do you know? That your grace, your divinity, is brighter than 1,000 suns. Or do we want to spend our life lost in our mind? How shall we live our life? Exploring, expanding, opening into our divinity, or running in circles like a dog chasing its tail? It's very human for us to run in circles, to think of ourselves as so small, so little. But God didn't make us to come here and chase our tails. God made us so that we can discover our divinity and be in absolute awe of what we are.